Dear Captain, I am currently in a state of disbelief regarding how strong Terran all-ins are. This issue has been bothering me for some time now, but I think I finally obtained definitive proof of this blatant imbalance. The game starts with a proxy oracle I learned from our Protoss savior, Hero. They managed to kill an astounding 14 SCVs while my opponent sneaks in 2 Hellions and kills some probes in return. I admit my control wasn't perfect, as I ended up losing 2 oracles for nothing. But obviously the damage was still far greater on his side. My opponent then decides to attempt a marine drop, but loses everything for a mere 3 probes and a zealot, as he decides to manage it with the so-called
Baron Micro.
My next step of the game was to do the usual 4-gate blink aggression, which turns into a massive success, with an additional 16 SCVs killed and the stim research cancelled. Feeling confident, I decided it's time to end the game and go for the kill with a charge and storm push. However, I was caught off guard by the size of my Terran's foe's army. My micro was not perfect and I didn't have a war prism for the High Templars, so I backed out and saved my key units. As expected, the Terran chose to go all in shortly afterward. I thought it was going to be an easy hold, but to my horror, I had once again underestimated the strength of a 2-base Terran, especially one with Ghost. Unable to defend on 2 fronts, as he also decided to drop my main base, I was forced to tap out. How is it possible for my opponent to come out on top with a stim A move after being dominated and sustaining so much damage throughout the game? I knew the all-in was coming, and yet I was still powerless to stop it. Please, tell me, Captain, is it IMBA, or do I suck? This imbalanced complaint form was sent in by New Horizons. On the European server, a Masters player with 4.5k MMR, wondering whether Terran is imbalanced, or if he sucks. And we're here to find out. There we go, New Horizons versus Tundra. Here on Dragon Skills, opening up with a bit of a Reaper wall. New Horizons. That's also the game with the Crooked Raccoon, isn't it? Irene played this game for a bit. I forgot the real name of it now for a second. Animals Crossing. There's a raccoon that loans you some money, and then you can go build on his island. I'm not sure if you also need to pay rent. This guy is a massive prick, this raccoon. And then you can build furniture. It's kind of like an MMORPG, except you don't have to kill anything. And you can't level up your skills very much. It wasn't very fun. It was a very basic game, I remember. It was called New Horizons. Everyone was very excited for it, but I don't quite understand why. It was really bad. Animals Crossing, yeah, that's what it was called. This build order here, I'm not entirely sure on if Hero plays it like this. Now, it is possible that Hero played it like this. I don't think he would build it back here. Usually, what you do with a proxy target is that you build it as close to your opponent as possible, and even if it's gonna get scouted. So most of the time, at least you build it over here, sometimes even here. This is a very obvious location, but all the way back here means that it's like, what, another 8-9 seconds of traveling. That might mean another round of Marine comes out. So rather than there just being 2 Marines, it might actually be 4 Marines. Or rather than being 4 Marines, it might be 6 Marines. On top of that, it also means that maybe an extra mine is out or a cyclone can, you know, pop out on the map. Depending a bit on the Terran build order. Terran does SCV scout, opening up with a Reaper first. Gets that high ground CC as a result. Okay, what did he play here? Fairly odd early game. What is this? Reactor into factory, I guess, then. Okay, well, that just means the factory is going to be very delayed. Also, it's not going to find the Stargate, so that's at least nice. This was a pretty late Stargate, by the way. This went down at 2 minutes and 2 seconds, so no type of 12 pylon, 13 gate, or 13 pylon, 14 gate, in which you can get that Stargate maybe 10 seconds quicker or so. So this is not a super rush. It's not as dedicated or not as committed as we see some of these other Stargate proxies be. This just means you're gonna need to kill some workers and maybe deal some damage, You're already, delaying the CC from going down in the natural, as this all got, built in the main. So that's already good damage, despite it not really being direct damage. It's a nice indirect damage for sure. First, the Marines here are popping out. I never quite understood this type of move, just starting to hit a depot with an adept and a zealot. In my mind, this should almost never work, and I guess you're gonna deal some damage on these Marines, which is nice. We have a car on the way. This is kind of a wild move, isn't it? Surely that should have been a mine. Surely that should have been a mine. Well, as a result, this Oracle's gonna deal a lot of damage. Surprising call here from our Terran player. Also not in position at all here to deal with this Oracle. This is not his game. This is absolutely not his game. And there's Oracle's just popping in over here. Kills about 6, 7 workers. Yep, 7 workers. Takes out 3, 4 Marines as well on top of that. Hellion has been spotted. There's a second Hellion on the way. This is a very confusing response out of the Terran for me. I don't understand. Like, if you're being proxied, you either get a mine or a cyclone. These are the 2 options you have. Usually you get a mine into a cyclone, so you're safe against Oracle. And a mine is always nice to have, and then the cyclone can help you be safe against more Oracles later on, or in case it's like a proxy robo or something, but I don't quite know what this was. Now the cars are moving across the map. They're gonna deal a little bit of damage at least, so that's going to be nice, but you're still struggling with these Oracles. 14 worker kills total. Now this Viking is going to clean it up because New Horizons has decided to stop controlling the units altogether. Has added 2 more gateways and now starts Blink. I kind of do enjoy a little bit of a 3-gate Blink behind this. I think this is a good type of build order. It allows you a lot of control and maybe allows you to deal a little bit of damage. Well, probably actually allows you to deal more than just a little bit of damage, because you've already dealt so much damage in the early game, If you deal a lot of damage initially, it becomes much easier to deal damage after as well. Majority of the time, at least, that is the case. Double mines now out. Terran is absolutely dead at this, but the game is over. Like, it's not just a little bit over, it's absolutely completely over. You have a 4th gate coming down. This I'm not a fan of. Okay, what was it you said again? My next step of the game was to do the usual 4-gate Blink aggression, which turns into a massive success. The usual 4-gate Blink aggression. Now, 4-gate Blink aggression is very common to play, and Proxy Oracle, you can play as well. These are separate build orders in a way. You can't really mix the 2 and then say, oh, this is the usual 4-gate Blink aggression, because you open up with a Proxy Oracle. This is like having 2 completely different recipes. It's like you're making your chicken Alfredo pasta, and then midway through you realize you also want a watermelon smoothie. Like these things, one doesn't necessarily lead into the other. It's not, you can have it with it, that's allowed, but it's not like you make it sound like the 4-gate Blink is the standard follow-up. I think the standard follow-up from a Proxy Oracle is some type of 3-gate Blink, and I know this sounds like a small difference, but I don't think it is. Or perhaps you're just going into like a Phoenix Charge type of style, where you're gonna keep a lot of control with the air units. The problem that I have with 4-gate Blink in situations where you're very far ahead as a follow-up is that it puts you in a more all-in position than you would need to be. Right now, you could have been building a fort base already at like 5 minutes and 50 seconds in. Instead, you're gonna get like maybe 2 extra stalkers rather than having 11 stalkers. You're gonna have 13, And I honestly doubt that you're fully producing this entire time anyway. So I'm not a huge fan of this. I'm also not a huge fan of these 3 pylons that get built all at the same time. I mean, you're dealing with this drop. That should be no major issue. Mine's gonna clear that with 1 zealot. Drop's gonna get cleared up. Yeah, this wasn't a great drop, but so far, honestly, I really don't like this type of play. When you're really, really far ahead, I think it's much, much better to just get a slightly faster 3rd base And you still go on the map with your 3-gate blink stalkers or even 2-gate blink stalkers, you know? You can deal some damage with it, you can control the pace of the game, but you also continue getting further and further ahead with that probe count, because right now you're going to have a small probe cut and your nexus is going to be delayed by like 1.5 minutes compared to what it usually is. Like, well, okay, by about a minute. At 550 or so, you probably could have built a nexus. So that's like, what, 5 probes that you lose from that nexus. This is an interesting way of blinking into tanks. That one I haven't quite seen before. Dodging a mine by then blinking deeper into the tank shot. Not a huge fan of that personally. We have a Templar Archives going up behind it, so there is some macro. You have continued worker production again as well. Here we go into the main. Not sure why you're so far forward into tank shot every single time. Not a huge fan of that personally. Okay, had a revelation of as well. Moves in. I'm not a huge fan of the blink micro so far. Well, of the blink, it's not really been micro with it. What was that? What in the world was that? Okay, look at this move. No way. So my man stands still here. Look at this. Stands still here for 5 seconds. Then blinks for movement speed. This I've never seen. He was literally just idling here. If you want to move here, you can start moving already. It's like, where's the anticipation of where you want to go next? This is like when you're driving up to a traffic light and rather than hitting the brake, you know, ahead of time, anticipating what's about to happen, you just drive straight into a tree because it makes you stop quicker. It's like, what? Now, I don't want to be mean, but perhaps you shouldn't build blink stalkers or practice with them first, because you dealt a lot of damage, don't get me wrong. You dealt a great amount of damage. But it is kind of painful that you didn't kill your opponent here. Or that you kept all, like, majority of your stalkers alive. It felt like every single time you lost a stalker, it was completely unnecessary. So I would recommend just very critically looking at your own blink control and then kind of taking it from there. On top of that, behind this, you haven't been macroing so well. You just now threw down those extra gateways. And as a result, you're flowing quite a bit of cash. And you're down in army supply, which is, you know, sucks quite a bit. You've been very aggressive, but you haven't been preparing at all for the defense. There's no map vision at all here on the left side, which means that a drop heading into your main could actually deal some damage. You're still working hard on losing stalkers into a bunker, which this is not really what you should be focusing on right now. You should be focusing on spending your money. That's much more important, and getting some map vision. Now, there are 4 Templar out. Storm is about to finish up as well. Charge has finished. There's not a single upgrade, by the way. Not a single forge is even out yet. As this drop now hits the main base, recall can be used, of course, to deal with that. Can also just start walking there. It's gonna take a bit longer, but there's no stim yet with this push, so honestly, it's not really the end of the world. No cancel on that robotics facility. This army should just get cleaned up pretty much for free. As this drop is trying to get a pylon kill. Manages to run out, no feedback being used. Not the greatest control on those stalkers. Now, this was bad for our Protoss player here, our New Horizons Protoss player, but the game is still completely over. Like, it is even more so over than before. Now, why is that the case? Is because now the only drop that is really viable has been, you know, it has been shown, and as a result, it's pretty easy to throw down pylons right now. There's a lot of cash, there are a lot of gateways, 10 gates, so it should be capable of just adding in like 4 Archons at this point. You know, just start working towards a max out. There's a forge on the way, which I don't completely mind either. I'm not a huge fan of attacking when you're up, well, what is it? Basically double the workers, or almost double the workers. Because the advantage that you have is time. Why would you want to shorten that advantage, right? If you're fighting on your opponent's side of the map here, you're going to be fighting earlier. Your opponent is going to have the benefit of reinforcement as well. Well, if the Terran moves out, that's another 30-40 seconds that you have, which is, well, basically 2 more warpins that you can have in your army before you fight. And you said you knew your opponent was all in, so I'm not a huge fan of this. Still should be fine, though. Just look at the Templar. I didn't quite catch it, okay? We have 4 Templar with about two storms each. And there are Marines here without combat shield, which means they die very quickly. Now look at where the priority here of these Templars, okay? Look at this. Look at this. What's that? They're like, oh wait, this might not be best. No, it was. There's no way. 4 full energy Templar, a single ghost out on the map, and an army that consists of pure Marine. And you manage to put these 4 guys just on a move to attack this barracks. Like, that is insane. That is actually insane. This is like having a team of 5 people. You need 1 person to go for the fastest run possible. And one of the people in your team is Usain Bolt. And you decide to use Usain Bolt as your water boy or something instead, rather than having him as the runner. It's like, this is a complete misappropriation of resources here. Like, literally a single storm would have completely ended him. I still don't think the fight was necessary. I don't think the fight was a great call. But I still also believe that you should have won the freaking fight. Because you just were very far ahead. And you had freaking Templar against non-combat shield Marine. Now you have no clue that he's moving out. Once again, you're too late to realize that there's a drop coming in. Could recall for this. You have no clue that this attack is coming in either. There's a fort base at this point. So you have kept expanding behind this. 2 robotics facilities as well. Rowaway about to finish. We built a warp prism. 10 zealots now get warped in, right into your opponent's face. Use a recall. You're just walking into... oh my god. Did that second storm actually completely miss? This is unbelievable. This is actually... look at this. Look at the first storm. First storm, so that was a good storm. And then the second one... I don't think it deals any damage to these tanks, does it? Oh, no, a little bit. A little bit of damage. Game's still looking good for you, technically. You're up quite a bit. You have an extra base. You could pull these workers away. You could hold these zealots back for a bit and then just clear this army, no? With... okay, I don't quite what? Did we pick up our Archon here? I'm not so sure. Warps in right in front. Half an army still up here, waiting for something to happen. Now moves out of position as the drops come back in for the 5th time. This is an absolutely unbelievable game. I just think that at any point, literally at any point, if you have a split, and I'm not even talking about a perfect split, just any split ahead of time, you just win the game. If your units are ever in position, but every single fight you took defensively, your units were in the wrong spot. Like, the tank marine force arrives at your 3rd base, you're in the wrong spot. The drop arrives in your main, you're literally never there to stop it. It's like legitimately no map vision. There was no control on the Templar that I would deem to be acceptable. And it was the same on the Blink Stalkers. So what I would suggest to you here, New Horizons, is that your macro honestly seemed completely decent. You're floating about 1500 gas in the end, and yes, there were moments of high flotation in general. What I would suggest is just stop using Stalkers, because you need to control them kind of individually. Stop using Templar, you need to kind of control them individually. Just get in more of an A-move army, get in Colossus, get in Archons, because when it comes to unit control, this definitely wasn't it. I'd also suggest going for map vision, but as that's something you struggle with, maybe just blindly pre-split like 6 Stalkers to your main at all times. Use recall whenever you're out of position, rather than whatever this was, just sending them out and then having to recall back to your 3rd base into your opponent's setup already. Like, you open up with an Oracle all-in or with an Oracle proxy. It deals a lot of damage. Then you have somewhat of an okay follow-up, which also deals a lot of damage. You need to understand that if you're extremely far ahead, that you just need to survive. Okay? You said you knew there was an all-in coming. Well, if you knew there was an all-in coming, why are you building a fort base with 2 more gases? Why are you building a war prism? Why are you attacking into your opponent that is on 2 bases at that point? Like, there's just so many questions. Like, why do you decide to add in a forge, you know, at like the 8-minute mark if you know that you're being 2-base all-in? Like, surely every single resource should be going into stopping an all-in. And also, if you know you're being all-in, why are you pulling your entire army out of position for a 2 medevac drop if you know that a 2-base all-in is coming? It's like you're saying these things, but you don't actually believe it at all. You're a Protoss grifter, my friend. I understand this is very frustrating. I've had games myself like this against Terran, right? Where it's like, oh, the stupid mules and they can afford their full production. But at the same time, it's like, you already had the tech, you already had the production. Like, if you can't win a game against this dude being up freaking 40 workers for a majority of the game, then maybe your opponent is just better than you. And maybe the only reason why you're acting at this MMR whatsoever is because you have some cheeses that put you very far ahead in the game. Like, I think you were the one kind of looking out of place at this MMR level, not your opponent. Your opponent got caught off guard and had honestly god-awful cheese defense or proxy defense, but whatever you did afterwards was just terrible. Like, I'm kind of disappointed and ashamed of the European server that this is what manages to make it to 4-5 these days. So yeah, I'm sorry, New Horizons. Just like Animals Crossing, you suck. And that's just the way it is. All right, that's going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching this episode of Is It IMBA or Do I Suck? If you did enjoy it, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Bye-bye.